This is Gemara in Baba Kama Daf No, incorrect. Yes, right. Yud Zayin. Baruch Hashem, another exciting day as B'siyata Dishmaya will be concluding the first parak of Baba Kama. It's always incredible how it feels like we just started. And within a short amount of time, a little bit each and every day. There you go, 16 blot in. Baruch Hashem, wrapping up one of the most famous parakim in Shas, the parak of Arba Avos Nizikin. And with that, we pick it up in the bottom of Tezayin Amid Beis. We're about 10 lines from the wide lines. Continues the Gemara, a bit of a tangential discussion, a discussion between Rav Elazar and Rav Shmuel Bar Nachmani, how to darshan up different psukim. And we begin with Kikaru Sheicha Lelachteni Upachen Tamnu Leragli. Says the pasuk. This is a pasuk in Yirmiyah. They dug a pit to trap me, and they hid traps for my feet. What does this mean? Rav Elazar Amar shechashtua mi zayna. What does this mean that they suspected him of being with a zayna? Rav Shmuel Nachmani Amar shechashtua meishes ish. So machlek is over here. What was going on in the story? Was it that both Moshe and Yirmiyah was suspected of zinos or Eishes Ish? Says the Gemara Bishal Mandam Shechashtua Meizayna. I knew they say that's what the pasuk says when it says Kishucha Amuka Zayna. For Zayna is a deep pit. So we see that a pit is a shaycha, is referenced to a Zayna. So it makes sense that in our pasuk, Hikaru Shaycha is referencing a Zayna. But I asked the Gemara, Lamandamar Shechashtua Meishes Ish, my Shaycha. What's the Shaycha? What's the pit? That's usually a Zayna, not Eishes Ish. Answers the Gemara to Eishes Ish, meaning Nafka Mechlal Zayna. And Eishes Ish is also at some level a form of Znos. Ask Gemara, Bish, Lamandamar Shechashtua Meishes Ish. I understand according to Mandamar Shmuel Nachmani that there was a chashash Eishes says, I know they'll say that to the pasuk says Vata Hashem Yadat as Kolatas Amalei Lamaves. Says the pasuk, Yirmiyahu continues talking, and you Hashem, you know that all they are trying to say, all their eitzas, all their plots against me, Lamaves, for death. Why? Because we know that accusing someone of Eishes Ish has a punishment of Misa. Elamandamar Shechashtua Mizayna, my Lamaves. What does it mean, Lamaves? There's no death penalty for zinos. Says the Gemara, Sheshlichua Lebe'er Tit. It means when they throw, Yirmiyah is referring to when they threw him into the Be'er pit, that's when he was nervous of death. And the story over here is discussing with King Tzidkiyahu was trying Yirmiyahu, and what did they do? And they put Yirmiyahu into a pit and left him there to die. Continues the Gemara with another shot in the last pasuk. Darash Rava, Ma'idech say, what is the meaning of the pasuk? Yimuchshaylim lefanecha, ba'is apcha asi bahem. They should be made to stumble before you, and Hashem deal with them in your anger. Amar Rav Yirmiyah lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rebbeinu shalaylam. Afilu b'shash Eishes tzedakah. Hachshilam b'nei adam she'enan mehuganin k'dei shel yikablu aleihem schar. Even when this was the tefillah, even when they're doing something good, make them stumble. Why? So that they're not going to receive a reward. Meaning, and from here we see that even when one does something good, it requires a siyata dishmaya for it to come to fruition, as the tefillah over here was, that they're trying to give tzedakah, but Hashem, don't allow them to do it. Make sure they give it to people who aren't worthy, so they don't have the schos. Continues the Gemara discussing the psukim of the kvura of Melech Chizkiyahu. The kavod Aisalai b'maisai, and they did a kavod for him in his death. Malamid, in the last line of Tezayin Mabez, what does this teach us? Shayishivu yeshiva al kivroi, that they set up a yeshiva by his kever. Pliver and Nasir Rabbanan bizamachlaikes. Chad Amar Shleisha. Some say they did this for 3 days. Chad Amar Shiva. And some say they did this for 7 days. For Amrila. Yet others say Shloishim. This was for 30 days. Tanu Rabbanan continues the Gemara, darshaning the psukim about the kvura, about the ptira of Melech Chizkiyahu. They covered Isolai b'Maisa. They did a kavod for him and his dad, Chizkiyahu Mel Yehuda. Sheyatu lifanav. They went in front of him. Shloish and Vishisha Elef Chalutei Kesef. 36,000 men went with Chalutei Kesef, with bared shoulders, in a sign of Avila, says Rashi in the last white light, says their Karbig Dayem. They would rip their clothing until you saw their body. 36,000 people going in front of Melech Chizkiyahu. Div Rav Yehuda Amar Ram Nechemia. V'alo livnei Achav. Asukein. What's the big deal? They did this for Achav as well. So what was special about Melech Chizkiyahu? Shenicha Sefer Torah al mitasli. They put a Sefer Torah on his mita, on the Aron. Va'amru kayim zeh mashakasu b'zeh. This person, this nifter, Chizkiyahu is mekayim, that which it says in this, inside the Sefer Torah. Asks the Gemara, V'inna nami avdina nahachi? Do we do this nowadays? Do we put a Sefer Torah on the kvura, on the mita of a gadol, and say that he was mekayim everything that was written in it? Says the Gemara, partially. Afkua mafkinan, but anuche loy manchinan. We bring out a Sefer Torah, but we don't actually place it on the Aron. V'bayisem, another pshat, anuchi nami manchinan. We indeed place it on the Aron. Kayim lo yamrina. But we don't say that the person fulfilled everything that it said. Amar Rabbi Achana, a third pshat. They were going after Rav Yochanan to ask him something. Rav Yochanan came to the bathroom. So they waited for him. They waited for Rav Yochanan to come out of the bathroom. But what happened is, he didn't answer until what? Not just when he came out of the bathroom. He washed his hand. And he put on tefillin, he made brachas, and then Rav Yochanan said to us, but we do indeed say that he fulfilled everything he says, but we don't say limed. We don't say that he taught everything that it says in the Torah. Asks the Gemara of Amar Mar. Gadol limud HaTorah. Why? Sha'alimud maybe lidei ma'isa. So seemingly the limud brings to the ma'isa, and we're saying the other way. Answers the Gemara lo kasha halim migmar ha le'agmure. When we say Gadol Torah sha'alimud lidei ma'isa, that's referring to learning Torah. Halagmure. When Rav Yochanan said we don't say that he taught, that's referring to teaching Torah. And we conclude the parek with a nice maimer from Rav Yochanan. Rav Yochanan Misham Rashbi, my dear, say, what is the meaning of the pasuk? Ashreichem, praiseworthy is Zoyre al Kol Mayim. Mishalchei Regel Ashar v'Chamar, those who plant on all water, who send forth the shar and the chamar. V'ashar Kol Oisek B'Torah B'Gmilas Chasadim. Zoich Lenachla Shnei Shvatim. It refers to one who is Isaac B'Torah and Chesed. He's Zoichet to the Nachla of Shnei Shvatim, which is what? Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Ashreichem Zoyrei, those who plant, Vein Zriel Tzedakah. Shenemar, how do we know that? Zir Lachem Tzedakah, V'Kitzur Lefi Chesed. And then the pasuk says, V'Kitzur Lefi Chesed. Vein Mayim, when the pasuk refers to Mayim, that's El Torah. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, have he called Tamei, whoever is thirsty, L'chu Mayim. V'zochel enachlas the Shnei Shvatim, and the Zeicha the Nachla of two Shvatim. What's that? Zeicha lekila ki Yosef. There's Zeicha to a canopy which is covered like Yosef Atzadik Tichsev ben Peiras Yosef benois Seada Ali Shor, and as well the Zeicha lenachlas Yisachar, which is a what? Which of course Parnasa wealth Tichsev. Yisachar Chamar Garim. So pshat number one is anyone who's Isaac B'Torah B'Chesed, they get both kavod and wealth. And Oisher is the Amri. Another pasuk, Ayvav Neiflin Lefan of Ki Yosef. You know, there's Eicha that the enemy will fall in front of them like Yosef. Tichsev, as the pasuk says, Bohem Amim Yinagach Yachadav Avseyaretz. V'Zaychim Labina, and they get understanding. Ki Yisachar Tichsev Amri Yisachar Yoide bina liitim ladas, to know mayase Yisrael, the two incredible pshatim, that which one is Zayche Adjon Aloch Arba Avos. We should do a incredible chazara. It's the start of Nizikin. It's a totally new limud. It is a good time to take upon ourselves a little bit more chazara. And with that, we begin a new perek, the second perek, a new Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, Keitzad haregel mu'edes. How is the regel a mu'ed? In what scenario is the regel a mu'ed? L'shaver b'derech chilucha, explains the Gemara, to break while it walks. V'abehema mu'edes l'halach kedarka. And a behema is a mu'ed, to walk normally and break as it walks. Haisa miva'ete u'l'shaber, and to break. If an animal is kicking, or if there are accidents that are shooting out from under the feet, and it breaks kelim on the way, then mishalim chatzi nezik. So the behema is a muad to damage as it walks. It's a muad to damage while it's walking. But if it's kicking something, this is what we're going to call chatzi nezik surayros, and the surayros, the rocks, shoot out and do damage, that will only require chatzi nezik. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, let's get a little bit more, let's get a little bit more elaborate in our case. What happens if darsa alekli, it steps on a kli, seemingly as it's walking, which we know should be nezik shalim. But then, vishavrasa, it breaks the keli. V'nafal al kli vishavrai. And then the broken keli falls on another keli and breaks it. What's the halacha? Al arish, and the first one the animal stepped on, that's mishalim nezik shalim. But v'ala achroin, on the latter one, which was broken by the shard of the first, by the tzrayros that shot out, mishalim chatzi nezek, a beautiful combination of the two cases. The Mishnah concludes that Tarnagol mu'adin lahalach kedarka, and Tarnagol, a chicken, is mu'ad to walk normally, l'shaber, and to break. Hayadalil kasha b'raglav, what happens if a chicken has something tied to its leg, or it's hopping in mishaber kelim, and only in that mannerism does it break the kelim? Then mishalim chatzi nezek, such a scenario, owner does not pay nezik shalim, but rather the owner only has to pay chatzi nezik. We turn over to Yedzayin Amid Beis and begins the Gemara. Amar le Ravina le Rava, ask Ravina to Rava. Hainu regel, hainu behema. The first two cases, the first two lines of the Mishnah seemingly are repeating the exact same din about a behema being a muad to damage as it walks. Amar le, Rava responds, Tani Avos v'Katani, he told us, you're right. One is the Av, one is the Tolta. Elamayat, I asked the Gemara 1 second. Seifa Dikatani, the Seifa that says Hashem Muadis. Hashem is a Muad, Habeim a Muadis. Mayav, Oisumai told us, says the Gemara. Havikamadle b'dichusa v'amar. Rava responded laughingly b'dichusa and says, V'amar le anosh anoy chada, v'at shani chada. I answered one. Now it's your turn. A good Jew answering a kasha with a kasha, says Rava, I told you one pshat, now it's your turn. V'tayim amai, so says the Gemara, okay. So l'maisa, what's pshat? Amar Rav Ashi, tani shein de chaya, v'katani shein de behema. Two types of shein, one of a wild animal and one of a domesticated animal. And why do we have to teach both? Because al kadei tzechamina, I would have thought, v'shilach as be'iroi ksev, behema in chayoloi. It says, and you send out your animal. You would think that's only by a behema, not by a chaya. Kamash Milan, the chiddush being the chaya, bechlal, behema, that a wild animal is included in a regular animal, have the same level of chiyav on damage. Ihachi asks the Gemara if this is true. Hami baile misli bereisha. So should have said the second case first. Answers the Gemara classically, Hai da askale midrasha. Chaviva, that which is learned via a drush, is more chaviv, and that is the reason why the din of the shein is listed first. Ask the Gemara further, Yachi Reisha Nami, in the Reisha as well. We should have as well said, Listi Ahi, that Deloy Ksiva Bereisha. Also should have said that which is not in the Reisha. Should have also said a drasha first. Halchi Ashta explains the Gemara, which gives us a little bit of an insight into the order, into the formulation of Mishnayis. So my divide avos into both avos. Therefore, midrasha. Therefore, we do what we learn out of a drasha first. But over here, Shavik Avatani Tolda, it can't be. Therefore, we list the Av first and then the Tolda. Teretz number 2, Yibayis Ema ID. Tisolik mi regel. We finished the previous parak with regel, pasach be regel. A second teretz. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan. Let's dive a little bit deeper into the Mishnah via the words of a brisa that teach us behema mu'edes lahalich gidarka ul ve'lishbar. Says the brisa behema zamuad to damage as it walks and to break the kelim. Ketzad, says the brisa. Enters into the possession of the nizik, vizika, and damages begufa with its body, derech as it walks. Obesayram with its ear, derech as it walks, with the saddle on its back. With the saddle on its back, or the package that's on its back. It damages, it bumps into something from the bin in its mouth, the bell in its neck, or the donkey with its load that it is carrying. In all of these scenarios, says the Braisa, very simple. All the ways an animal is going to damage, walking as it walks. Comes along Somches, Aimer says the Heliga Somches. We're about 10 lines from the white lines. First line is Aimer. Srairais. The chazir sheyanover ba'ashba says the somches pebbles that come shooting out from an animal's foot as it's walking, or a chazir, a pig that is pecking around in the garbage. Vehezek, and it damages mizal shalem nezek shalim. End of brisa. So says the Gemara, what is going on with somches? Hazik pshita. If the chazir did damage by bouncing around, of course you pay nezek shalim. That's a regular case of an animal doing damage with its body. Meaning, if the damage by the chazir was bouncing, it was as it was pecking through the garbage. If that was the damage, ask the Gemara, then of course you're going to pay nezek shalim. What is the chiddush of somches? Hello, says the Gemara. Ema, you know what's going on over there? If something shot out of the animal's foot and damaged somchis holds, you pay nezek shalim. Says the Gemara, what's going on in this brisa? First case of the brisa said all the cases of an animal damage as he walks. Comes along somchis, srairis, and this case of chazir, nezek shalim. Says the Gemara, srairis. Mandachar Shemayu. Who mentioned Srairis? There's obviously something more going on in this brisa that meets the eye. Says the Gemara, yes indeed. Chasure mechsura v'hachi ketani. Let's understand the brisa. We have to add in a few words. In the Tanakama, after it discussed all the ways the animal damages as it walks, with all the items that it's holding, the chamar with the load, says the Tanakama, Surairis kirchayim chatzi nezik. Surairis, if it shoots out, you pay half damages. V'chazir she'inover ba'ashba, v'hitiz v'ezik, v'shalim nezik chatzi nezik. Tanakama holds in both cases chatzi nezik. On that soches, Aimer, there it is. Surairis v'chazir she'inover ba'ashba, v'hitiz, meshalem nezek shalem. That's where soches is arguing on. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, 3 lines from the white lines. Let's delve a little bit deeper into this din of Srairis. Says the Braisa, Tarnegailim, chickens, She'amafrichin that are flying, Mimakim le'makim, V'shevri kelim b'knafeim, Mishalem, Nezek shalim. But, Beruach shebekanfeim, Mishalem, Chatzi nezek. We have a chicken flying and it damages, that's damaging with the body, that's nezek shalim. If it damages with the air that comes out, that's chatzi nezek. Somches Amar, even in this second case, Nezik Shalem, even if it's with the air that comes out of the wings. Brisa number 2. Tanya Idach learned in another brisa. We have chickens which are hopping on a dough. The algabe beiros or on fruit v'tinfu, and it soils the pears and the dough. Or nikru, or it makes holes in them. What's the halacha mishalim nezik shalem? Hela ofarois rois mishalim nezik chati nezik, and you can start to realize in all these cases the damage is done direct. Nezik shalem, shame, damaging with the body, etc. Once it's one step removed, it's a rack that shoots off, it's the dirt on the fruit, then chatzi nezik again. So chasaymer nezik shalem, brisa number 2. Brisa number 3 with the same din, Tanya Idach. A third brisa, Tarnegol shayim mafriach v'makom l'makom v'yatsa ruach v'tachas kinavcha v'shivru v'sakelem mishalem chatzi nezek. Says the brisa, stama kira banan, like the rabbanan. So Amar Rava, what exactly is this machlokes between Somches saying in all cases of chatzi nezik you pay, all cases of seris you pay nezik shalim, and the chacham say chatzi nezik? Somches kasaver koi chai kigufay dami. Somches, I understand koi chai, that which comes off my body, the rock that shoots out, the air off my wings, says Somches as a regular din of guf. So therefore you always pay nezik shalim. Al Rabbanan, according to the Rabbanan, he could gufay dami kuli nezik by l'shlumevi lav could gufay dami chatzi nezik nami lo l'shalim. Choose your poison. Either it should be guf and nezik shalim or not guf and nothing. Hadam Rava, we should know this already. Loyim ki gufay dami, really it is like your guf. So why do you only pay chatzi nezik? Says the Gemara, the famous words which we've seen already. Chatzi nezik srayres is hilchasa gemirila. It is a halacha leMoshe misinai. Says the Gemara, once we're on the topic of Seres, we continue. Amar Rava kol shebezav tameh b'nizakin mishalem nezik shalem. Kol shebezav tar b'nizakin mishalem chatzi nezik. Says Rava, any way that a zav would be metame, a zav being a male that has some sort of emission from his body, any case that the zav would be metame the item, and in that mannerism the zav were to damage, that would be called direct damage, and you'd pay nezek shalim. If not, you'd pay chatzi nezek. Says the Gemara of Rava, Seris as lashminan. Is Rava just teaching us a simple din of Seris, that any time it's not direct, you only pay chatzi nezek? Says the Gemara, Loi. Rava, Rava's coming to teach us. Egla mushachas bekaroin kam hashmalan. Teaches us a case of an egla, which is pulling a wagon. Now, what exactly is that? Let's see the brisa, and with this we'll call it a day that proves this din of Rava. Tani Gava say the Rava. Behema muedes l'shaver b'derech hilucha keitzad. A behema is normal to damage as it walks. How? Behema shenechsal l'chatzer anizik ve'izika enters into the property of the nizik and does damage begufa with his body. Derech hilucha b'sayir derech hilucha. Be'oikav shalal b'shliv shalal b'prum b'yeshev b'yad alone on its back, the package on his back, the bit in its mouth, the shlik zavara v'chamar b'masoi. All that we should know already, but now we have the extra case. Ve'egla mushachas be'karoin mishalim nezek shalim. But if the animal is pulling a load, then it pays nezek shalim. That is the case that Rava is teaching us, because that would be a case of a zav being metame, as it is more direct, pulling the load. And that is when Zivi Nezek Shalom. We'll conclude by looking at one Rashi. Rashi, Egla Mushachas Bekaroin. Rashi explains that the chiddush is that a zav tamei imholcha karoin. Shazav alel, if you have a wagon that the zav is on it, al gabe kelim temeim. Why? Shemidros hazav, it's as if the zav walked on it. So even though the zav is in a wagon, it's still the same level, and the fruit that the wagon rolls over would be tamei. That is the chiddush. Ubenizakin nami egla shamoshcha bekarna gabe kelim keig. That's the chiddush of Rava. But if hit the tar, then the bizakinam mitzaris ninu. That's the chiddush of Rava, the final application. That if the damage is with the wagon, just like in the case of the zav, it would make it tameh. Over here, you'd be nezik shalim. Pick it up from here in the next year. B'siyata dishmaya.